I'm going to edit these little pieces of them together sometime later. I was going to wait and put on the just arrived of the paper-like. I decided, well, I'm going to like that or I'm not going to like it. Doesn't much matter because I can always take it off if I don't like it. I already kind of like what I've got, so we'll go with that. Right now I'm connecting my keyboard, USB keyboard. It's a real cheap little item. I'll talk about keyboards connected. This is just a routine I have to go through to get this going. And then the other thing that has to be connected, and I'm pressing the home button to navigate to this main page of where all the programs are. The main program we're going to be looking at is this guy named Borodante, Painter. And I've got my ambitions with regard to painting. I want to do some things as a painter, but I also want to do some things where I'm just drawing. And to draw, it's always been a real unnatural act to me. I'm all on digital. And this is the other main investment you have to make. This is the $100 Apple Pencil. And you absolutely need this. Oh, and another hardware note, this is a Generation 6 2018 iPad. It's about 9.5 inches. It's something. This is something I just lucked out. When I went to Sprint looking for something smart that would let me set up my security code, they just happened to recommend the only iPad that's not a Pro that will work with a pencil. As a rule, you're going to have an iPad Pro to work with the pencil. But if you want to go slightly cheaper, this Generation 6 2018 9.5 inch iPad will work for you, and it works great. So that's that about that piece of hardware. This is the pencil. That's $100. The keyboard is like $20. These things are just to keep everything from sliding off. This came with a Huron light table, USB light table, which is cool because this is a really nice, comfortable work angle I've got now. I really dig that. I've been doing some drawing with it, and I really like it. And then I bought this to keep it really from sliding around as much as anything. It's a wrist thing. That was $10, and this little piece is also $10, and that brings my hand up just about right. And of course, the other little thing a digital guy might want, I'll put it on right now, just to keep his smearing down to a minimum. Is one of these little items. You can find them. They're just called usually smear guard. So let's start Artstudio Pro and talk about it a little bit. Oh, this is the other step you have to go through. I've already gone through my step where I have to link up the keyboard. I also have to plug in the pencil for this to recognize it. I now know it's recognized it. And I always try to keep track of this little magnetic thing by putting it back on it right away. So we are going to talk about this. I'll start a new drawing, hide that one, or maybe just as you can see the interface, here's layers. Here's how you add a new layer down in the corner, a little plus sign. And down here in this corner, you bring up a dialog that gives you that. So now I've got white selected. And you'll find the hotkeys. For instance, watch, I'll be pressing some hotkeys here. Pressing B. Oh, well, let's see. L, it went up to lasso. B comes back down to brush. Some other hotkeys I know. Well, if I make a mark, Command Z, undo. And it's got a lot of the hotkeys, and G is fill. So since I'm on that layer, there we go. So there was a layer up here that had stuff on it. Okay, and L is lasso. And Control Delete shot a hole in it. So let's see, let's try G again. And got a lot of miscellaneous I could start jabbering about, but and of course these are pretty handy fairly often. It's one of those things where I do like going back and forth. For instance, on the brush picking stuff, where you might want to go back and forth is like, instead of using your lasso tool to give yourself little color islands that you're filling, being able to go back and forth between B and G to get cool abstract fills just goes that much quicker. Oops, see, I obviously didn't do a fill there. I can almost see where the breaks are at, but I won't even look for the breaks. We'll just go with doing another one right. Anyway, that sort of thing is really, that's cool. And as you get really close to it, and notice how I'm getting close to it, you get the very clear indication that some aliasing has went around and is imperfect. But you know what? That imperfection is no worse than having to come along with your Sharpies or your brush or whatever else you're using, and you get so far out on it and you realize, well, it's filled. You know, that aliasing, it's no worse than having those little flecks of interest in your inking that occur when you do something handmade, you know. So this is what I really, really love about this program. Is when you want to work on a screen and it's driving you nuts getting yourself in the ergonomic place to pull a line, this just takes all that away. You bring up the point that you want to draw at, and you bring it up into your comfort zone, and you draw away and manipulate just by touching the screen. Now you'll get some moments where if you touch one finger at one time, your finger will will draw and you'll have to undo it. But usually it recognizes that fingers have touched the screen at the same time and you want to navigate around. And this is just so cool. This is one of those ergonomic things that for me were always missing about digital, because it always seemed like I was always having to awkwardly reach some point and pull a line in some awkward way. And of course Photoshop will do this. They'll put it into free rotate and you can hotkey your way around to doing that. But you never really, without a lot of jumping through hoops, bringing that piece of the image to where you want it to do your line pulling that you're in your comfort zone with. So there's that. So you've got hotkeys. It's very easy. The colors here, you see, this is really cool. This is your helpers. Show perspective grid, and then you have to go to an additional step of show. Let's see. Perspective grid settings. Now you're in a mode where you are dragging the horizon line. You are picking how many vanishing points you have. And again, it's ignoring the fingers. So you can get these real nice naturalistic vanishing points. And then you say, you have to click at. Now, now I have to see, there's a few steps, but you have to say snap to perspective grid assist. Now let's get close to it, see that it is indeed working. So you can put out a real nice, and if you're like me, the value for this is that I'm putting down a little something that tells me, yes, this is where you want to draw your perspective to, but I might then freehand it, even though I have the ability to draw like straight lines. All my stuff that I might want to, let's do that on a cleaner layer. What do you say? Let's just turn that one off. Turn that one, well, got to have something on. Let's do another fill with a layer and not have it black. Yeah, if you wanted to watch me draw instead of explain, I can edit some of this out. Okay. That should be empty. It's making such a point about, there we go. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking with great gas. Okay, this should be a blank layer. Okay, here we go. Oh, well, yeah, well, let's go ahead and on that menu. But anyway, I just wanted to really quickly reinforce how cool it is. And of course, I can now dynamically say, okay, there's a grid. And if I go back and say reset, or just right now that I'm in this, I can drag that around again and say there's something else that's forming a new grid. In other words, it's dynamic. You can get a couple of little different things going on. It's just as easy as pie to move around while you're sketching. Leave that in its own little layer or something like that and just make it a helpmate. Okay, so there's that. And it's fun. And I've got to turn all the little helpers off, so those should be off now. Now we're in freehand. So the way you manipulate, so obviously size is down here. Now that I discovered is got a hotkey, just like you're used to in Photoshop. Watch it move if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. I'm moving my brush. So now I've got a real big brush. By the way, I've discovered on this brush that you click on the brush, and right now I'm using the hard ink. And I like the hard ink, and that was just a kind of a fun discovery that it's just about perfect. It produces a little bit of aliasing, but it's still nice, and it's not a vector brush. It's not that smooth, but it's sweet, especially for those things like that abstract fill kind of thing, where you are saying, give me a quick thing like that. So anyway, that's a great little brush to know about. And let's look at the brushes. We are right there. You click on the little brush that's highlighted, and right here its heading is under inking. And look at all the headings: assorted, assorted. You know, just a nice little grab bag. And basic. You know, all these little hard brushes that, though you might use those as a jumping off point to make your own. And right here, these are, and they got some nice little things that behave a lot like pencils under sketching. So it's real easy to go down here to find all of these little options: wet painting, sketching modified, dots and specks for a little bit of texture. And like I say, I've got one here that it's going to be the workhorse. I've discovered this hard ink. They have some others that are just very good little inking tools that spread out a little bit, that do things like you would expect this sable brush to do. It's going to be very expressive and like that. But to my way of thinking, it has just a little too much aliasing. I don't want that. Let's look at those side by side when I switch back to hard ink. See what's going on there? But anyway, so I don't even have the paper-like screen on it yet, and you can hear the contact. You're drawing on glass. Like I say, if I don't like that paper-like, it's coming right off. I don't mind this too much, but if that paper-like makes the experience that much better, which, by the way, cost-wise, paper-like is $30 for 2 sheets. So you pay for these things. They $30 is a lot. Okay, drawing mode, and then there's stuff. I always am late to the game on how to modify them, but they have a lot of ways to modify all the tools. Like the brushes have, see right here, just wet paint. If I switch to wet paint on just the brush I'm already using, it is, well, whatever, it does that sort of effect. It's very cool. Paint, you got pencil, eyedropper. Of course, that is probably the hotkey I needed to learn quickest. And of course, if I just instinctively said, what was the hotkey on Photoshop, I would have had it. But first off, I was trying to get along without having that keyboard at the ready. So I was slow there. And like I say, this little thing here, this is just beautiful here. The ability to get it right where you want it and paint and draw. Oh, anything else I'm going to say about it? Anyway, I recommend it for the sake of folding this for the price into my phone bill, adding about $20 extra a month for a while as I buy this little thing. This was going to be something I've wanted for some time, a Cintiq, but I was going to have to pay, you know what, a couple $1,000 for that. And now I've got something that's got the ability that I bought it for, which is to turn on my security system. And see, all that's very familiar to you. You've got all the lock transparency. If you want to turn all your artwork to blue or something, you just lock the pixels or lock the transparency and then do a fill, and you'll change everything to a color. So, like I say, very, very Photoshoppy. It's something that I've been missing in terms of, like, every time I get on my tablet, it's like I can't draw digitally. Here, I feel like I am much, much closer to the way I create drawings. I create drawings by being a messy Kim Jong-chi. I think that's his name. You know, the guy that draws like a master. Every line comes out is meant to stick. Well, I don't do that. I draw in a way that this can result in a drawing by the time I return to it and put it down on the next level. And I'm so enamored of usually what I do in terms of just like hanging on to the gesture. I don't bring things along much further than this. Also, the eraser is that customizable thing where whatever brush you want it to be. So what I do is, like for my eraser, I just make my eraser the same thing I'm using for my brush. So it's a nice, when you get close to it, you can see it's creating the same sort of hard cuts that my brush is putting down. So if I'm cleaning up, like if I'd ever want to clean up something like this, it's just quick, easy, or for that matter, just do more drawing with it. After all, coming back with negative with an eraser's as much a drawing as anything. So there you go. It's fun. I recommend it. And I will quit and try to solve how to put paper-like on it. And I'm going to assume from all the people that dig it, I've got to figure out the best way to clean my screen first. Okay, that's it.